Omaha Horns are back. Nash, Texas baseball takes the win 2-0 in the Super Regional over Oregon, returns to the College World Series for the first time since 2022. We don't talk about that year, but it's been a long time coming for the most prestigious team and program in college baseball history. Now 39 times headed to Omaha, 14 more than second place, I believe, or 15 more around that. So Texas finally returns in year 2 with Jim Schlossnagle. We're going to get into all of this and more with the Texas baseball team, even look ahead a little bit. First, make sure you're going over to InsideTexas.com and checking out this awesome summer sale. 50% off the Ultimate Fan Bundle gets you Inside Texas news, which includes all of the great writing we have, talking about recruiting, football, baseball, basketball, everything in between. On3's national service and Rivals for recruiting news as well. It's just a great deal, and you can go check it out right now over on InsideTexas.com. Nash, man, how was your night last night? Because you were there doing photo for us, and obviously you've been around for a long time watching this Horns team, and it felt pretty special from my view in the box.
Yeah, no, I mean, just a fantastic environment. I thought that, anytime there's an 8 p.m. game on Sunday, the fan attendance can get dicey for good reason, right? I mean, there's work the next morning. The game literally ends right as the clock's about to strike midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And that place was still packed. It was still loud. The Adrian Rodriguez moment, I thought it was really cool looking at it from your camera perspective, because there's not a single person sitting inside the dish.
Yeah.
Right. If anybody's sitting, they're probably, disabled, and they're just literally not able to stand. The fans absolutely rise to the occasion. There was multiple times where you could feel the fans' presence, and they really they did their job. They did their assignment. Just an absolutely fantastic environment. And then, after on the post, on the field, I'm taking pictures down there on the field with the, capturing the celebration between the players and their families. That was a really cool moment. Like, for guys like Mendoza, right? That family's diehard Longhorns, and to watch them get to celebrate a moment that they, had only dreamed of. I was asking, I'm asking Mendoza, Robert, his dad, I'm asking him, is this better than you dreamed of? And he's like, absolutely, man. I mean, it's just what a fantastic night.
Yeah, we had Eric Borba, who's Casey Borba's dad, post a picture on Twitter of him holding Casey. I don't know how long ago. Casey was probably about 7 years old at Omaha at Rosenblatt Field. So it runs really deep. This is a very obviously historic college baseball program, but just a lot of families and culture surrounding everything with Texas baseball. And you look back to last year's team, and it's not even like they made the Super Regional, but just such a heartbreaking loss, being the number 2 national seed. You go down at home to UTSA, an in-state rival, and fast forward a year later, and I wouldn't say this path was easy, Nash, and Texas didn't have to play Mississippi State, which was nice, or Auburn, but you look at the 5 games they played, and 3 of them were pretty much blowouts, dominant wins for Texas, and then you mix that with also these really close series and, advancing clinching games, whether it be UCSB 6-4 win, where your bats weren't perfect throughout that game, your pitching had its little faults there in the middle, but you still come out with a win, and last night, it was really quiet for the hitters after those first 2 innings. 3 through 7 innings were pretty bad. Stranded some runners, had a few innings that were just pretty uncompetitive. Bradley with his gyro changeup. I don't even know how you describe that pitch that he was throwing, but a nasty movement. He was really mowing through the batting order. But Texas gets up in the 8th inning, and those last 2 innings, Nash, I mean, that might be the loudest I've ever heard the dish be.
Yeah, it was really loud. I mean, it's crazy because it sounded like a football game.
Yeah.
The way that with how loud each individual person was getting, because football, I mean, it gets loud, but not every single person is screaming at the top of their lungs. Every single person inside the dish was screaming at the top of their lungs. The Eyes of Texas, that was probably the loudest I've heard the Eyes of Texas outside of maybe Texas A&M. It's just, man, what a special win for Texas.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like, I'm up there in the press box, and it's, the sound is kind of settled down there because you're in the glass, and even on the broadcast, I noticed that they were definitely bumping down the noise a little bit comparatively, because like that was that crowd pop that got on my camera from the video I took of Rodriguez's hit was one of the best you'll hear at a college baseball game anywhere around the country. I mean, I think Georgia's fan base at Foley Field yesterday was also up there with some of the best environments. But, shout out to Longhorn Nation, Saturday and Sunday night games, 7 p.m., 8 p.m. starts, out loud and proud. I mean, the whole stadium was filled. Saturday was a record-breaking attendance. I don't remember if we even got a number on Sunday, but I would expect it to have rivaled it at the very least, maybe not quite 8,500. So I'm looking back at this game in some pivotal moments, and first inning, the back-to-back homers were electric, and I think a lot of people thought Nash that was kind of it. Like Texas was just going to go out and win this game and win the Super Regional. They were going to kind of run Oregon off the field, and especially after the second inning where they had another two, and Sanford's just wild. But give it to him for settling in. But I think about those fifth and sixth innings, Nash, where Ruger Riojas ends up extending, higher pitch count. They bring him back out there in the sixth, and he does his job. Even though the fifth inning wasn't quite what he'd hoped for, Oregon had a lot of shift beaters, just hitting the ball in the right spot. And he gave up some hard contact, but a lot of the real damage came on these singles that just kind of barely escaped. But when you look at Ruger Riojas's overall night, even though the stats weren't pretty, what did you take away from how he pitched through those 6 innings?
I mean, it was he won 111 pitches. I think that if you're going to use one word, it's gutsy, right? He just it may have not been perfect, but he gave Texas everything that he had, put everything that every ounce that he had left in him. He dumped it out there, emptied the tank like they always say, and he gave Texas, ultimately the shot that they needed to win the game. I mean, it's a 1-run game at the end. So yeah. If he's any less than he was, then maybe if we got to go to the bullpen just an inning sooner, that could have been a difference. I mean, it's just he gave Texas exactly what we needed.
Yeah, I mean he was. Yeah,
I was going to say the attendance record. It was 85 people less than Saturday. So
gotcha.
Back-to-back days of probably 1 and 2 attendance.
Yep. Yeah, and Riojas was one batter away from going just a flat 6 innings, which, I've been someone who's maybe criticized Schloss Engel for some of his management of the pitchers. And last night was no different. I thought the Walls decision was odd. We didn't even see Brett Crossland in this postseason. So, Walker comes in after a hit by a pitch and does a really good job. And Ruger almost just gets through 6. And then in the 7th inning, this is a guy who's received a lot of flack this year, but Brody Walls gives up the double, and then there's a pass ball from Tinney. So 3-1 count. In comes Thomas Burns and comes in and shuts the door on that batter, gets a ground ball, which, if not for the Tinney error, it probably would have been no runs, and then gets a strikeout. Like that is all Texas could have asked for and more from Thomas Burns. And Schloss noted after the game, like it's not that he was pitching bad, but you take the lead in the 8th inning, you're bringing Sam Cozart into that baseball game. Adrian Rodriguez, what struck me most about that 8th inning was that Pendergrass tries to get on with a bunt on the first pitch, doesn't do it. Robbins grounds out in the second pitch, and we're looking at it's 3 pitches into the 8th inning. Texas is down 1. They only have 4 outs remaining. Like, I don't think people realize just how quickly things changed in that game for some people that maybe just watched the highlights. But Tinney works a 4-pitch walk. They pitched around him. They bring in Bell, who's really their closer, to face Anthony Pack. And Wazakowski, the coach for Oregon, noted after, yeah, I know we took out the lefty to face Pack. Pack's been hitting about 500 against lefties for the last month and a half, so there's no one to face Anthony Pack. And he gets hit by a pitch. Temo Becerra, who had a really rough game up to that point on both sides, doesn't hit the ball very hard, but he hits it in the right place and legs out an infield single. And then Adrian Rodriguez works a 3-1 count. I love that. Troy Tulowitzki is not a guy who calls a lot of offensive timeouts. He usually lets his guys hit, but he comes out there before Rodriguez comes in and just calms him down. Says hey, this is why you came to Texas. This is why you came to compete in the SEC. We want you out there. You are the guy we want hitting this baseball. Works the 3-1 count, just gets a pitch to hit, and he didn't hit it over the fence. Didn't need to be a power shot. Put it in the perfect spot opposite field, and that is all Texas needed. Nash, what was your point of view from that hit? Where were you in the stands, and how did the dish feel when he was rounding those bases?
I'm not gonna lie, I was not in the dish. I was taking a picture of the fire crew behind the left field. Trying to change up some vibes. We might have scored after I go and bought a College World Series hat or something like that. Like the Texas team store. Every time I go and get something from team store, go drop in my truck, we score. So I might have done that to try and get some runs on the board. But yeah, I mean, I still got to see it from out there in left field with those occupied left field crazy guys out there. But so I mean, that hit was kind of coming straight towards me. But man, just like you said, the crowd pop that you had from that hit, it was absolutely fantastic. And I just like to that point, how many times did we score from 2-out hitting? This not just this super regional, but this regional
as well.
And that this is just, it's one of those little small aspects of baseball that really goes unnoticed, right? Because most times you're really just going to think about, well, you just need the hits, right? Hitting with 2 outs, that can demoralize a team. And I think that's kind of what you see from Oregon. I mean, like because 2 outs, you're right there, and if this team keeps on scoring, then it's like how do we kill this team, right?
Yeah.
And Texas, they were hard to kill this so far.
It's what plagued Oregon in the first game. They left a ton of runners on base early in that game, and then eventually Texas just kind of pulled away. And up to that point, Texas had left 10 on base, right? They'd had multiple runners in scoring position that went unscored. I think Becerra alone had 4 left on base himself, and they ended with 13 because Larson didn't get those runners in the 8th. But you're not going to complain about that when your game-winning runs came with 2 outs, and that's just been the story of Texas in the postseason. That's why one of the reporters asked, I think it was Kurt Bowles actually, why Texas is such a hard team to kill, and Schlossing was just like, well, we have good players and they make good plays and they execute, and that 2 outs is added to that. Nash, you mentioned left field, and I got to shout out Occupy LF, and they had a great video that I want to pull up right now of just the craziness after. Hope people can see as the game ends. And
the train horn.
Pure elation. Ruger Riojas at the front, Pack right behind him.
Of course, Ruger's the first one.
Of course. Just look at these guys. It was a scene at the dish. It was so fun as that horn keeps going on. It was a fun time, Nash.
I wish you played it a little bit further, because there's towards the end of the video, they popped a bottle of champagne. They were popping on the players, and like the players they get like a second eruption when the champagne starts flying on them. They start losing their minds, and I mean, just there's only so few words that you can really describe the environment last night. You go to think about guys like Casey Borba, who've been here for a few years, and this is his first trip. There's some seniors on the team that this was their one shot to get to Omaha. You talk about Aiden Robbins. He came to Texas to be able to have this opportunity, and he gets it. Carson Tenney, same thing. And like you mentioned, I mean, Texas opened the game. You're like, okay, are we in for another 18-0, 16-2 regional or something like that, right? We're just gonna see start hitting bombs all day. It calmed down pretty quickly after that, but yeah, I mean, just what a fantastic environment. It's just, that was a game that if you attended that game, you're gonna remember that for the rest of your life.
Definitely. Yeah, Robbins and Tenney at the top of the order came to Texas to play in Omaha. Hadn't played any postseason baseball in their first 2 years in college, and now as they're getting ready for the draft after Omaha, this is it for them. This was their last chance, and they got it. Ethan Mendoza is a junior on this team, been here for 2 years. Ashton Larson didn't get a chance to really play when LSU went last year, so this is a big moment for him. Of course, Borba, Darian Pendergrass in year 5, Ruger Riojas in year 4, Thomas Burns in year 3. Just a lot of different players who are, not all of them have been at Texas forever. That's what happens when you change a coach and the transfer portal. But guys who just been around college baseball who deserve a chance to really compete at the highest level. And, speaking of competing at the highest level, what can you say about Sam Kozar? He wasn't great in his one other game in the postseason. And that was against UC Santa Barbara. And he actually had to get hooked from his save opportunity, the very last out. They couldn't trust him against Kelly, who had already taken him pretty far opposite field and just allowed a lot of base runners. And I don't know. I don't think anyone, even with that being said, had any reason to believe that Sam Kozar couldn't close out this game. And I mean, I don't think Oregon had one piece of hard contact on him. It was 4 strikeouts, most of which were uncompetitive, and then 2 ground balls. That last strikeout, Kozar's not the most emotional pitcher on the staff. He usually kind of keeps it close to his chest, that 40-year-old man mentality. But he just erupted after that play, and you can see the elation from he and Tinney. Nash, what does it mean for Texas to have a closer like this going forward, not just for the game he had today, last night, excuse me?
I mean, if for nothing else, the intimidation factor's worth its weight in gold. Because like you said, I mean, you look at his numbers at this point. Every team that's left in Omaha. Well, first off, Alabama, they know.
Yeah,
Oklahoma,
Alabama's very
they know.
aware.
Like they know. I'm pretty sure he's appeared in both those games. I'll double check that word in a second. But Georgia knows by now, because Georgia's obviously we're staring Georgia down. Yeah, we're scrolling the same one. Yeah, Oklahoma and Alabama. Yes, Alabama saw them twice, and
3
Oklahoma
scoreless against Oklahoma, 4 scoreless against Alabama combined.
So they know, right? Like those two teams know that they know good and well that Sam Cozart is a very dangerous pitcher, and that if he enters the game, it could easily be lights out. Georgia's they've probably already gone over the stats already. They probably already and they're going to also see much more advanced stats, like on certain pitches, how effective they are and all that stuff. And this is one of those situations where if I'm a coach, I want my guys scouting, right? But maybe not scouting too much, because they might start psyching themselves out, right? And I think that's one area that when you have a dominant closer like Sam Cozart, I'm not saying because Mariano Rivera is such a special guy, but when Rivera came into games, just any good closer that you have, there's the mental side of things where, do guys start to strike out before they've ever struck out or something like that, or do they put poor contact because they're just trying to get contact at that point, like they're just hoping to get contact versus get good contact. It just, man, it feels like such a massive, plus to have Sam Cozart in the bullpen and, have that dominant, I'm trying to think of a closer that we've had recently. Maybe Dylan Volantis, but Dylan Volantis, we didn't really get to use him as a closer towards the end in the regional last year. But it really almost does feel like having I say this very, very carefully, but it does feel like a Houston Street out there.
Yeah.
And it's just having that force. And if you're Georgia, congratulations, you made Omaha. Now you get to face Dylan Volantis and Sam Cozart. And some people were saying, Dylan Volantis had a bad game, right? He had a bad game yesterday. If 10 strikeouts through, I think it's either 6.2 or 7 innings pitched. If 10 strikeouts through that is a bad game, I'd hate, if I'm an opposing team, I'd hate to see him in a good game, right?
Right.
It's just, and honestly too, and I'm a little glad that we get to play Georgia as a fan, because one, we get to, there's been all this talk about, Georgia, that best team in the SEC, and we get to finally see that barometer. We finally get to see that, comparison head to head on a neutral site.
I think the best, finish your thought.
But even more so, I think that when you're wanting to go out there and win a national championship, right? It's the old saying, to be the best, you got to beat the best. And Mississippi State's a heck of a ball club, but we've already beat Mississippi State. You already know if Mississippi State somehow finds a way to pull that super regional out in Athens, the fans around the SEC, they're all, oh, y'all got lucky. Wow, y'all got to avoid Georgia, right? Wow, you get lucky. We get to see Texas versus Georgia, 1-2 in the SEC, and from all indications, if Alabama and Oklahoma hold this is going to be the most teams from any conference in the in the Omaha. No Omaha no conference is at 5 teams in Omaha. So with Ole Miss, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma, that's looking pretty solid right now. But I just think about, to be the best, you got to beat the best, and we get to go face the best right game one.
I'll put a slight pin on the Georgia talking point, because I want to get to that a little later, and we already have a great question in the chat about it. But just to round out the Austin Regional, you were searching for a name, a familiar name to bring up, and I was trying to think about an MLB comparison for Cozart, and you know what came up, and for some Astros fans, this is going to be a really good memory. Is Ryan Presley, that 2022 season, I don't think he gave up a run in the postseason. He had like six saves, 0 earned runs, and that was a year where Houston still had the great team, but Altuve and Tucker weren't all that good in the postseason. Like Verlander wasn't the same ace. I don't think Cole was available for that team, or he was on the Yankees at that point. But they just had this closer who, you're within, or you're down a run within the last 2 innings. All right, good luck. That's as long as Texas has that lead going into the 8th inning, or even as long as it gets there in the 9th inning, it's just so hard to pick against them when Cozart's there. I know he's not perfect. He's not, unbeatable as a pitcher, but I mean, his ERA on the year has now gone to 1.67 or 1.65. His whips in the 0.7s. It's just unreal how good he has been for Texas. And UC Santa Barbara was, I'd argue, his only poor performance of the year, and that was 1 earned run. just because he had 5 hits, that was really the only problem. It was only 1 earned run in 1 2/3 innings. So if that's the worst you're going to get, and we talked about that with Volantis, the worst you're going to get from Dylan Volantis is 10 strikeouts with a lot of base runners. Sign me up. That's fine with me. Adrian Rodriguez, I want to give a quick little shout out to before we fully move on, because, this is, I wrote about this for those who didn't see. I was at the dish until about 3 a.m. I think I might have been the last guy in there. I got a picture of the tower as well. But it took me a while to just kind of get words on paper, because A, I was dead tired. B, I was just kind of talking to some of the media members, and C, I just want to find a way to write about Adrian Rodriguez and really understand his story better, and talk to some other people who had great ideas. Shout out Zach Sim, who was, talks to the Rodriguez family a lot and knows a lot about what happened to the surgery. But remember, A-Rod was hitting second to start his career at Texas, the starting third baseman, first series last year. And last season, he then has to miss a good chunk of time because his hand gets hurt. And left hand, he gets a boxer's injury, which is why it's so weird that it hurts him so much to swing, because it's one that you think of with the impact of a punch, not like swinging a bat. So he's hurt last year, has to go DH, has to go hit left-handed only. It goes through a lot, and then his team loses in the Super Regional. It's like, man, I thought I could have done way more as a guy who at points in times, Nash was probably the front runner to be the SEC Freshman of the Year before Volantis. And then coming to this year, he worked so hard in the offseason, worked to be a shortstop on this team, did really well to do so. Started the year hitting well, but we just kept seeing that he was hurt. And it was pretty obvious that something was wrong with him. And eventually it all cracks. He gets the staples. I believe he's allergic to the copper in the staples that were in his hand. They get it removed. He sits out for about 3 weeks, misses the A&M series, and comes back only hitting lefty, only going opposite field pretty much, focusing on his defense, not being the superstar, the power hitter, but he just keeps grinding. He just keeps playing good baseball. Defense was a little worse tonight or last night than it was the nights before, but he's been an all SEC defensive shortstop for most of this year. Knows how to place a baseball in the outfield, doesn't need to hit it over the fence. And Nash, that resulted in 7 RBI over the Super Regional, which I know they scored 11 in the first game, but really, like, the most important RBI that Texas got, the first in that first game and the last in the second game. Adrian Rodriguez's story is still yet to be written at Texas, but you could just tell from when he was talking to us in the media that this just meant so much to him. And that's got to be one of the most unforgettable moments in any Longhorns career in recent memory, at least.
Yeah, I mean, game of inches, that ball's a few inches to the left. That's a foul ball, and everybody, ooh, you're hearing the like the size almost in the crowd. But I mean, I think one of the special things about Adrian Rodriguez, one, you can see it's clear he still has pain, right? There's still a level of pain, so he's toughing it out. And he just is a really, really tough baseball player, in a sport that really a lot of people don't attribute toughness with. But two, man, a lot of time, like you mentioned, his power being gone, right? He is really a guy that he has a lot of power, and we just haven't seen it yet at the dish, just because of him getting injured versus Missouri, and never really being able to recover from this whole like staple ordeal and all that stuff. he still almost poked a few balls out with that power, but it's I think a lot of times when you see a guy that like with his ability to hit, sometimes they have to rely on power or something like that.
Yeah.
And he has not been like you said, he's able to focus. Been able to change his approach to let's get some opposite field hits, right? Let's hit for average, and he's been incredibly valuable for this Texas team. And that I mean, it's not like even with still having to obviously deal with something that's there that he's a lesser hitter at the plate. I mean, it feels like almost like you're getting a different good hitter. Like either way, there's going to be a good hitter, but you're getting two separate types of good hitters. And I mean, man, it's just then you also think about like the fielding because it's not like it's not like that pain's just existing at the plate, right? He has to obviously you had Justin LeBron, you had a few good shortstops this year. And the SEC is always going to have some good shortstops, but it feels like he's going to have to he's going to be the number one shortstop in the SEC going into the next year.
Yeah, he's got a lot of draft buzz, and I know people are kind of like, "Where's that coming from?"
I think people have him higher than Volantis.
Yeah, and that's coming from the idea that it's going to get better. And Schloss has noted this out, like it's going to come with Adrian Rodriguez, but right now he knows that he has to battle more than anything, and he's got 2 weeks more of maybe if there's more pain. He said that it's still not quite 100%, but whatever it takes to win for Texas, that's what Rodriguez is going to give, and that just shows the kind of competitor he is. We're going to talk moving forward for a few minutes, but first, let's hear from Luxe Kitchen and Bath.
Are you ready to love your kitchen and bathroom again? Luxe Kitchen and Bath will bring that to life. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring your dream vision to life. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team also provides full home remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today, or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get your free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE, or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Contact info is in the description.
So we have Georgia coming up, and Nash. It's so crazy, man. I was talking to some people in the press box about this, but as Alabama has officially clinched as when I clicked on that ad read right there, Alabama beat St. John's in the replay, and Oklahoma's probably going to go out and beat Kansas. They were up pretty big. This is going to be 5 SEC teams in Omaha, but think about the 5 that are there, right? Georgia hasn't been since 2008. Alabama, this is their first in the 21st century. Ole Miss has been around. They've been a good team. Not the premier SEC team, but a good team. And then 2 teams that weren't in the SEC in 2024. No LSU, no Vanderbilt, no Tennessee, no Arkansas, A&M, Florida. Any of these teams, I probably missed someone. I mean, there's so many high-tier SEC teams that haven't made it. It might be not a full change of the guard, but just shows like Mississippi State, another team I could add there. It just shows what the level play in this conference is, that not only do you have these elite high spending programs with really good players, but even the ones that aren't quite on that same level are still making it to Omaha because, when you're not playing the same SEC grind every week, you can go out and beat some of these teams like a Kansas or, Alabama got a little bit even easier draw, but they had to go win their regional and their super regional. So just something I thought I'd point out, but let's talk about Georgia. Kyle here asks a pretty good question. Can Volantis slow down a high-octane Georgia offense? And, this is one of the only, outside of maybe Georgia Tech, I would say this is probably the best offense from start to finish so far this year. And, 1 through 9, just guys with 950-plus OPS is the best hitter in college baseball right now. Daniel Jackson. Trey Phelps is a superstar. Lujo's a superstar. O'Shags is really – I could go 1 through 9 and name every single player. I do think, Nash, that if there's any team that could go and steal a first game from Georgia, who is probably, I believe right now, the clear favorite to win the World Series, at least by betting odds, I think it would be a combo of Dylan Volantis and Sam Kozar.
Absolutely. I mean, I've talked to some Georgia fans, and that they're really not that excited to go have to face Dylan Volantis and Sam Kozar because, and I think that even if you're not even if you see a game where like Dylan Volantis only goes like 5.1 innings, like he did this last this Super Regional. First off, this is one of these games that you're going to like. Schloss is going to pitch them probably. I don't know if he's going to go above like. I think 130 would have to be like the max. But Schloss is going to extend his starters as much as he can. He's going to squeeze as much juices out of them. I think you've already seen the blueprint with Luke Harrison. I mean, Luke Harrison was still ready to go. He threw only like 25, 30 pitch. That's a bullpen, right?
Yeah.
And if you're able to just get him a bullpen and bridge the gap between Volantis to Cozart, I mean, you have to like your odds as a Texas fan. And I mean, it's just, I don't know. Like it's hard because you always like a daunting offense like Georgia. That's they're really special. Like you said, I mean, you could go 1 through 9, and you can go beyond the 9.
Yeah, to 11 probably.
But I've been a broken record on pretty much all my life. In my opinion, I think good pitching beats good hitting, because there's a reason why hitting 300 in the MLB over a 10-year career gets you into the Hall of Fame. It's just hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports. Now, when that baseball is thrown by Dylan Volantis and Sam Cozart, that goes up another notch, right? Like that ball, it's not only got good velocity, but it's got exceptional movement. It's for both. You can make arguments for both teams on why they could win this game, and I think it's really going to be it's going to be a battle, truly. It's going to be fun to watch, though, for sure. I mean, we're really going to see an answer to this question.
Yeah, and I think West Virginia's got a pair of really good starters, and as does UNC's got one really good starter, and they have a true freshman reliever who ended up starting their last game and was just unreal. I mean, what a performance by, I believe, Glauber was his name. I mean, those guys have an argument to be top 5 pitchers right here, but Dylan Volantis is clearly the best pitcher in Omaha. And I think Sam Cozart is probably most likely the second best pitcher in Omaha. So that's why we have this up. It's must-see TV because it's just good on good. Best offense versus the best pitching. That's what you're getting in Omaha for the first game. It's already been announced 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central.
Yeah, that's how it lines up with the.
Yeah.
It was so fitting that it lined up for that 8 p.m. slot.
Yeah, and like shocker that these two brands got the big time game, and probably the two teams who I looked it up by implied odds or at least straight up odds. UNC and Georgia are actually the same where I was looking, and then Texas is third. But because of strength of competition and like where call sheet the way they do it, Georgia is first, then Texas. So probably the two favorites to go out and win this are facing off. You have to put them in the Saturday night game. So. We got some great questions in here. DKW, who's always a great chatter in here. Do you think Harrison goes game 2? What would you do, Nash? Would you do Harrison game 2, even if Texas loses, or what would your strategy be with the starting pitchers?
I mean, I think it's honestly going to depend on, do you need Harrison to bridge, like I just mentioned just a second ago? Because if you need him to bridge, you're going to have him throw the ball. What's the equivalent of a bullpen? And it was pretty apparent that they weren't going to use Luke Harrison unless like literally breaking emergency case, today. Luke Harrison from the get go, he was wearing his pullover. Obviously he still got his jersey on, but he just did not look like a guy that was going to be thrown into the bullpen, right? Going out to, and anytime you see the starter in the dugout, right? It's like, okay, yeah, he can always jog back there to the to the bullpen later on, but it didn't feel like that was the plan versus the other game 1. It just depends. If you have to use him game 1 versus Georgia, then you probably by default you want to give that day of break between the bullpen and then actually going out there and pitching 100-something pitches.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's just I think that most likely you're going to see. I don't know. It's tough to say this because we've seen so much changing over the last few weeks. I think that there's a good chance that if he doesn't go out there and do that bridge gap, that you see him go out there for game 2.
This is no means a disrespect to Luke Harrison. I think with a really successful Omaha, he can go down as a real Longhorn legend, or at least kind of a cult hero for Texas. But this isn't someone who's got this big time MLB projection. He's probably not going to make it to the major leagues, and he's a really good college arm and one who is such a veteran on this team. And it's his last year here. He's going to empty the tank. I mean, he will do whatever this team asks of him when it comes to pitch count. I mean, he'll throw as many as they need him to. And he's got the kind of pitch style where, because he's not super reliant on the fastball, that he can do that. He can go deep into a weekend and into games. And we've already seen him both do it and also set up to do it with both these last, regional and super regionals to do both a, relief appearance and then come in and start later on. What I think they're going to do, and I think what Schloss has been setting up, is this kind of Swiss Army knife style where Volantis is the 1 and Ruger is the 2 as your starters. And Harrison is just whenever we feel like we need to put him in. And that could be, hey, we don't need him until the 3rd game, so he can just start completely fresh. Or it's, all right, game 1, like we need someone to get the 6th and 7th inning. Luke Harrison is our best arm to do that. He's going to go do that. And if he throws 30 pitches, you know what? He can go throw another 80 in 2 days. He doesn't care. So I think that's how it's going to work out. I would expect that he is one of their main leverage relievers with Cozart. And then, some people are talking about it in here. I know Thomas Burns has had his struggles this year, but the way he pitched 2 of the last 3 appearances he's had, he is definitely that first guy called before Cozart. And I hope to see Crossland at some point. I do think that he's the kind of guy who can give Texas some big innings, even if it's not a super long relief outing. Ethan Walker has done his job when asked to. That one batter kind of guy, 1 or 2 hitters against lefties. That's the kind of player he can be. So wouldn't be surprised if Walker gets a few chances. Hayden LaFew, I heard after the game that the broadcast kind of overdid it, talking about his injury. He's fine. He was just day to day. He wasn't going to be able to pitch yesterday. He might have been able to pitch today, actually, if they needed him to, but they kind of jumped the gun saying he was unavailable. But, LaFew's been a little bit inconsistent, so I don't know if that's the arm that you really want to see out there all the time. Brody Walls is another pitcher. So I know it feels like with this Texas bullpen that there's no one that you can trust, but if anything, there is a lot of guys theoretically who you can put in here. It's just about them throwing the strikes and getting the outs that are needed for the Longhorns. And so, Omaha's a long stretch, Nash. This is a lot of time playing baseball. If you go on a run, you really need, even more so than in super regional time, a staff that is just going out and performing up to both expectation and also exceeding those expectations for some of these freshmen.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Thomas Burns. I think that if anybody's really concerned about Thomas Burns, they need to go listen to that Oregon coach speak about Thomas Burns. That's a big league arm with some big league stuff. I know he gives up the hits every now and then. He's actually been able to limit walks for the most part outside of a handful of games. Ironically, Oregon was one of them yesterday. Yeah. Not yesterday, but the day before. Yeah. But when you look at it, go look at his outs. He's thrown 22.1 innings pitched. That's 67 outs. 64% of his outs have come through strikeout. So, I mean, it's just he is clearly still a guy that he's still hard to hit. But, I mean, when the hits do come, they seem to be more memorable, than others because it kind of obviously he's coming in high leverage situations. But he also, I mean, he's only given up 6 extra base hits. Like a lot of people, like I think a lot of people feel like it's almost like an instant double or instant home run when he comes out there. That's far from the case. There's only been 3 doubles, 3 home runs.
Just felt like it came in big moments.
Yeah, it's just. I think that when you're looking at like a guy like Thomas Burns, you have to. I don't know. It's one of these deals where Omaha's going to bring out the best in players or bring out the worst in players, right? And you just have to trust that the man inside the box, right? The man inside the arena or whatever. They going out there on that little island and, just being a dog out there on the mound. You have to trust in that. And I don't know. I got I think we've kind of learned early in the season. We extended him a little bit too much in his
Yeah,
outings,
I agree.
but I think we've learned, man. Him going 1 to 2 innings, that's the sweet spot for a guy like Thomas Burns. So, and then also, I mean, you got they did a little spot where they were talking about Max Wiener on ESPN, and Jim Schlossing was talking about how you know he was saying that Max Wiener goes so deep into the stats, and like that Ethan Walker has a certain pitch that's like second least hit in the nation or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's like his slider or something like that. It's just I think that there's plenty of guys that you can go to in certain situations and certain scenarios where you can look at matchups and all that stuff. And this is one of these situations where having a deep bullpen and deep pitching staff like Texas does is going to really benefit Texas. I mean, you need it to win in Omaha.
Yeah, for sure. And I was thinking about this last night as I was coming home. Like, this Texas team is not perfect. If you could have, if Jim Schlossnagle could say it again.
Sorry, this morning.
Yeah, this morning. Yeah, 3 a.m. Jim Schlossnagle would be the first to tell you that they're not a fully complete roster. But part of that is just because of injury, right? Like, the center field spot's just not quite had the same impact as you would have hoped this year especially for a team the level of Texas. But that should be Jonah Williams out there taking those at bats. And you wish you had another relief arm or two. And Max Grubbs, who was struggling this season, but like Max Grubbs isn't there anymore, who was a longtime veteran for this team. And some people pointed out, we wish Cal Higgins had given this team a little bit more. That was someone they got through the portal. They got 2 outfielders in the portal who never even made it to campus. So it's just funny that this team has felt in some ways incomplete at times, that they were missing a few spots. And Ashton Larson's had to fill in at first base and done a commendable job. So really, he has taken to that position so well. And yet Texas is here in Omaha, and they're second or third in betting odds, and they're second and third in ratings and things like that. So, Michael Winter, who Nash is pointing out in our private chat, like that's someone that they expected to be a really big contributor, like a starter on this team. And he goes out with illness and just hasn't quite been the same. And that's where Brody Walls has really stepped up. Like, he's not really been the freshman you would have thought would have been the guy for this team. And yet he's here pitching in some pivotal moments. Nash, we've gone a long time. I don't want to take too much of your time, but any last thoughts when it comes to this team or Omaha, or any last things you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked this, because there's one thing that I think that I feel like there's just like this little gut feeling that I got right now with it feels like we're gonna get just one of these like masterclass appearances from like a guy like Cody Howard.
Okay,
just it,
flag,
just pure culture guy, right? He's been pitching. I know some people are gonna go, well, what about the Arkansas game? I still think he pitched really well. Like, I mean, yes, you're going to be pitching. You're going to be facing some really good batters, just like Cam Kozel. But Cam Kozel was you remove Cam Kozel, and Cody Howard was almost virtually lights out there. Maybe lets up a couple hits, right? But he struck out a lot of guys. He's been having good velo. Outside of that, he's been really, really good for Texas, and he's been able to go 2 to 3 innings, right, in the last 4 appearances. Man, CB, you got in here late, brother. I know you partying too much last night after that win, but Cody Howard just feels like one of these names that like nobody's gonna think of, going into the tournament, right? But you're just gonna have like this, massive impact if we are able to go out there and win some games.
Yeah, no, this is the kind of time when just random players really step up, and I think of LSU last year. Like, the pitching staff that they brought into Omaha was very different from the one that was even like ending the SEC, or definitely in the middle of the SEC. Just different contributors in different spots and starts. So, Texas might have to do a funky starter at some point, and they might have to, come in with a long relief plan that they didn't want to have to do because a starter got chased out of the game early. But this Texas team's got as good a chance as anyone, especially if they can. I don't want to say steal, because when you have Dylan Valencia on the mound, you're not stealing anything, but go and take a win against Georgia, and you are really in the driver's seat to go make a a big run at this final. Nash, thanks so much as always. And thank you to, of course, Inside Texas for having us on and letting us just yap about Texas baseball for 45 minutes. Make sure you're going over to Inside Texas and checking out this awesome fan bundle. 50% off summer sale gets you 3 awesome things. Inside Texas content, baseball from us too, and of course, football and football recruiting, basketball, everything in between. On 3 for your national news and Rivals for your recruiting news. Do not miss out on that awesome, awesome deal. Nash, Texas is going to Omaha, the Omaha Horns. Unforgettable game, unforgettable environment. Thank y'all so much to the 569 people in here till the very end and all of our chatters, DKW, Kyle, everyone in between. Thank y'all so much for Justin for hanging out. Thank y'all so much. We'll see you next time over on the Inside Texas YouTube channel, powered by Inside Texas.
Welcome.